On a chilly yet beautiful morning in London, tourists were scattered around Buckingham Palace, snapping photos and chatting excitedly. Amidst the hustle and bustle, one figure stood absolutely still, a living statue. His red uniform was flawless, his polished boots reflecting the soft sunlight, and on his head rested the iconic bearskin hat, a symbol of British tradition and honor. But on this day, that tradition was about to be tested in a way no one expected, and a tourist was about to learn an unforgettable lesson. Enter Rick, an American tourist, but not just any tourist. Rick was wearing his finest vacation chic, a Union Jack flag draped over his shoulders, a MAGA cap perched askew on his head, and a Hawaiian shirt so loud it could have been screaming for attention. Oh, and let's not forget the half-empty beer bottle in his hand. Rick was deep into vacation mode and clearly on a mission. And that mission? To take the famous furry hat from the Royal Guardsman. Rick, swaying slightly as he moved through the crowd, felt like the center of attention. He turned to his friends and announced with a grin, "This is my shot. I'm going to wear that fuzzy hat. How hard could it be?" His friends laughed, egging him on, pulling out their phones to capture what was sure to be a ridiculous moment. As Rick made his way through the crowd, his confidence was growing by the second, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation ahead. The guardsman, standing stoic and motionless as ever, didn't react. His gaze was fixed straight ahead. Rick, in his own little world, was convinced the guardsman would never break his composure and that he was somehow above the rules. He swaggered up to him, grinning like he was about to star in his own reality TV show. With a loud shout, Rick approached the guardsman and, with the kind of careless arrogance only a drunken tourist can possess, he grabbed the bearskin hat right off the soldier's head. "Look at me," Rick cheered, throwing the hat onto his own head. "I'm the King of England now." The crowd gasped, phones immediately appeared, and the atmosphere shifted from casual curiosity to tension. Rick, completely oblivious to the situation, posed clumsily, completely unaware of the storm he had just triggered. But then something shifted. The guardsman, without so much as a twitch, moved his feet ever so slightly. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but it was enough to send a ripple of anticipation through the crowd. Everyone held their breath. What was going to happen next? The moment had arrived. With a grace that spoke to years of discipline, the guardsman stepped forward. The single thunderous stomp of his boot echoed through the square, silencing the crowd in an instant. The sound was sharp, authoritative, and impossible to ignore. Rick, still drunk on more than just beer, stood frozen in place. His confident grin faded as he realized the crowd had fallen completely silent. The guardsman's cold, steady voice rang out, breaking the stillness. "Give the hat back." Rick, his bravado crumbling, stammered, "Come on, man, it's just a joke." His earlier southern drawl, which had once boomed with arrogance, now quivered under the weight of the guard's authority. The guardsman didn't flinch. His hand was extended, palm up, a silent but unmistakable demand for the hat. Rick, now visibly nervous, fumbled to return the hat, his hands shaking uncontrollably. But in his drunken state, he lost his balance and stumbled backward. It happened in slow motion, his body folding awkwardly like a poorly executed yoga pose. He landed flat on his back with a loud thud, sending the hat soaring through the air. Time seemed to slow as the hat, almost as if guided by the universe itself, landed perfectly in the guardsman's waiting hand. The crowd erupted into laughter and applause. Capturing every second on their phones, Rick's friends were doubled over with tears streaming down their faces as they watched their friend's public humiliation. And yet, the guardsman remained unmoved. He returned the bearskin hat to its rightful place on his head, adjusting it with precise, regal care, and resumed his post as if nothing had ever happened. His expression? One of perfect composure. He was the picture of dignity, and the lesson was crystal clear. Don't mess with the hat. Rick, still sprawled on the ground, now fully grasped the magnitude of his mistake. As he lay there trying to gather what was left of his dignity, the guardsman simply returned to his post, never breaking his stoic demeanor. The hat had been returned, The moment was over, and life at Buckingham Palace continued on as usual. Meanwhile, Rick's mishap was already going viral. By the end of the day, his stumble was trending on social media under hashtags like #HatFail and #GuardJustice. His drunken antics had made him an internet sensation for all the wrong reasons. But Rick's humiliation didn't end there. The next day, he received a letter from the palace's security team, reminding him of the importance of respecting British traditions and the guards who uphold them. It was a lesson Rick would never forget. As for the guardsmen, it was just another day at Buckingham Palace, another tourist, and another lesson learned. For the guardsmen, the hat was sacred, and no matter how bold the tourist or how loud the crowd, tradition was always more powerful.